The digital hum of the office suddenly feels suffocating. Emma Blackwood, CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech empire, stares at the emergency notification flashing on her screen. Her world is breaking in real time. "This can't be happening," she mutters, fingers frozen over the keyboard. Across the room, Sarah rushes in with a pale face, panic evident in her wide eyes. "It's everywhere," Sarah whispers, her voice trembling. News outlets, social media feeds, there's no escaping it. The scandals everywhere. The once pristine reputation Emma worked so hard to build now lies shattered at her feet. Emma's breath catches as her heart pounds in her chest. Her empire, the very thing she thought could withstand anything, is on the verge of crumbling. The phone rings on her desk. She knows who it is before answering. Jackson Cole, her competitor. The one person who always had a target on her back. She's already been betrayed, and now she's exposed. Her mind races. This isn't just a breach in trust, it's a full-scale attack. "I have to fix this, now," she thinks. But how? She thinks. But how? Trust has evaporated. Allies are turning to enemies. She's alone. Or is she? She won't go down without a fight. Emma takes a deep breath, the weight of the moment crashing down around her. The ring of the phone stops. Emma doesn't answer. Silence fills the room, heavy with uncertainty. Sarah watches her, tension visible in her stance. "What now?" she whispers. Emma swallows hard. The weight of responsibility crushes her chest. Jackson Cole is on the other end, waiting for her to crumble. She knows the stakes. She's played the game for years. But now it feels different. Betrayal smells thick in the air. The scent of her closest allies plotting against her. A sense of urgency wraps around her, tightening with every passing second. The sudden silence becomes unbearable, a gnawing presence in the room. Her heart races, but she forces herself to remain composed. A single misstep, and everything will fall apart. The business empire, the loyal employees, her very identity. All of it could slip through her fingers in an instant. But she won't let it. Not yet. Not yet. Not while there's still a shred of hope left. She clenches her fists, ready to make the move that will change everything. The game is on. But will it be too late? Emma gathers her thoughts, standing tall in the midst of a storm she's about to face. Jackson's call is only the beginning. She knows the game he plays, but she's not going down without a fight. Her team, those who remain loyal, will help her hold the line. She glances toward the window, seeing the storm outside is nothing compared to the chaos brewing within. Emma was always the one to take charge, to push her company to the edge of innovation. But now the very thing she built is unraveling before her eyes. What if they all turn, she thinks. Can she trust anyone anymore? The question lingers in her mind like a storm cloud, blocking out the light. Her reputation, her company, and everything she's worked for are at risk. She's not just fighting for business, she's fighting for her survival. Emma knows this is the defining moment. She has no choice but to fight back, no matter the cost. The silence in the room is deafening. Emma finally answers the phone, her grip tight on the receiver. Jackson's voice is smooth, almost predatory. "You can't win this fight, Emma." His words cut through the tension like a knife. "This ends today." Her blood runs cold, but she doesn't flinch. "I'm not going down without a fight," she retorts. The challenge hangs in the air. Jackson Cole is ruthless, cunning, and now he smells blood. Emma's mind races as she realizes that this moment will decide everything. Will she hold on to what's hers, or will she lose it all? The stakes are too high, the pressure suffocating. Every choice now feels like a risk. Every wrong move could be fatal. She doesn't know who's really on her side anymore, and that uncertainty leaves her with nothing but doubt. But even in her isolation, She refuses to give in. Emma's fingers hover over the keyboard, her mind racing. The pressure of the moment is unbearable. Every decision feels like a gamble. Trust has crumbled, and now she has to decide where to place her faith. The loyal ones are few and far between. In her gut, she feels something shifting. Someone on the inside is playing her. But who? As the rain continues to pound against the windows, Emma knows that she must act. Now, before it's too late. The walls are closing in, and she can't afford another mistake. The hours ahead will determine whether she rises from the ashes or is buried beneath them. Her future, and the future of everything she's built, hinges on what comes next. But who can she trust? The office hums with tension, the walls closing in on Emma. The world outside feels as if it's collapsing with every passing second. Her phone vibrates again. Another alert. She can't escape the flood of messages. She feels a tightness in her chest. They're coming for me, she thinks. Jackson Cole's name flashes on the screen. Another call. She doesn't pick up. She doesn't need to hear his smug voice again. Emma stands frozen, her mind racing. Betrayal, paranoia, fear. Everything seems to be spiraling out of control. How did it all unravel so fast? In her gut, she feels a storm brewing, and it's not just the weather outside. The storm is in her company. The phone rings once more, and Emma finally picks up. Jackson's words are sharp and calculated. It's only a matter of time, Emma. Her heart skips a beat. She's running out of time. She knows the clock is ticking, and every move she makes feels like a misstep. She's at war, but who's on her side? And how long can she survive this onslaught? She slams the phone down, a new resolve forming inside her. This fight is far from over, but now it's personal. The phone falls silent, but the tension in the room only grows. Emma leans back in her chair, eyes closed for a brief moment of respite. The hum of the city outside becomes muffled by the thick walls of the office. She rubs her eyes, trying to think clearly. Sarah, standing near the door, watches her with a mix of concern and curiosity. "Are we going to fight this?" Sarah asks quietly. The question hangs in the air. Emma hesitates, then nods. "We don't have a choice." But the weight of their situation lingers. No one is truly safe. Everyone is vulnerable. The room, once a sanctuary, now feels like a cage. Emma knows the risks, but there's no turning back. The faint sound of the rain tapping against the windows is the only thing breaking the silence. She turns to Sarah, offering a small, determined smile. "We'll get through this," she says, but even she knows it's not that simple. The calm after the storm feels temporary, fragile. Something's coming. The question is, what will it be? Later that evening, the door to Emma's office opens without a knock. Michael Thompson, her trusted CFO, steps in, his expression unreadable. There's a tension between them, an unspoken distance now growing. "We need to talk," he says, his voice firm but strained. Emma looks at him, barely holding herself together. "About what?" "The fact that everyone I trust is turning on me?" She doesn't expect an answer, but Michael gives her a tight-lipped smile. "It's not just the people in this building. It's bigger than that." His words are a threat she doesn't want to hear, but she has no choice but to listen. "You're not alone in this," Michael adds, but Emma doesn't buy it. Every word he says feels like an attempt to control, manipulate. The power shift is already happening. Michael knows it. She knows it. And Jackson Cole is watching, waiting for his moment to strike. "We'll see who's really behind this," Emma mutters, barely loud enough for him to hear. But her voice shakes with doubt. Can Michael be trusted? Is anyone really loyal anymore? Her thoughts are interrupted as Michael's gaze hardens. We have to act before it's too late. The next day, Emma meets with George Anderson, a former CEO who had seen it all. He leans back in the chair, the lines of age and regret on his face. "Trust no one, Emma," he advises, his voice gravelly. Everyone has an agenda, even the people closest to you. Emma listens intently, the weight of his words settling into her bones. I built this empire on trust, she says softly, her eyes momentarily lost in thought. George shakes his head. That's your first mistake. Trust is a currency in this game, and it doesn't last long. The air between them grows heavy as George leans forward, his face grim. They'll come for you when you least expect it, and it'll be someone you never saw coming. Emma's mind races. Every word he speaks feels like a warning, an omen. She wants to believe there's still hope, that the company she built can survive this. But George's words ring true. No one is beyond suspicion. The question that remains is, who will strike first? Emma's thoughts are interrupted as George places a hand on her shoulder. You need to make your move, Emma, before it's too late. As the days drag on, Emma's resolve hardens. The weight of betrayal and uncertainty continues to gnaw at her, but she pushes through. She walks into her office, her back straight, eyes focused. There's no more time for hesitation. I have to act, she thinks, her hands gripping the edge of the desk. There's too much at stake. Her reputation, her company, her future. It all depends on the next move. The decision is clear. She will go on the offensive, but fear still claws at her insides. She knows the risk. Everyone she's trusted has let her down in some way. But that's the cost of power, isn't it? The cost of survival. She gathers herself, standing tall once more. We move now, she says quietly, the words full of resolve. The door slams behind her as she exits her office, her path uncertain but driven by a new sense of purpose. She won't be caught off guard again. The game is changing, and she's no longer the prey. The day begins like any other, calm, quiet. Emma walks into her office, feeling the soft glow of the early morning light through the windows. The news cycle has quieted down, and for a brief moment she dares to hope. Maybe, just maybe, things could turn around. But even as the thought crosses her mind, something feels off. She can't shake the unease building inside her. Her assistant, Sarah, enters with a folder in her hands, her face calm but distant. Here's the latest update, Sarah says. Emma takes the folder without a word, but the moment Sarah's eyes meet hers, Emma notices the hesitation, a subtle flicker of something unreadable. She doesn't say anything, but the silence grows heavy. Is everything okay? Emma asks, watching Sarah carefully. Yeah, Sarah replies, but her voice cracks slightly, betraying her. Emma's eyes narrow, the illusion of calm shattering. Something isn't right. The room feels colder now, the air thick with tension. Emma senses it, the first cracks in the foundation of trust. She opens the folder, but the paper seems to blur in front of her eyes. The information doesn't matter. The trust is already breaking. The day continues, but Emma can't shake the feeling that Sarah is hiding something. Over lunch, they sit together in a small cafe near the office, a moment of rare peace amidst the storm. The conversation feels easy at first. Sarah laughs at Emma's dry humor, and for a brief moment, the weight of everything seems to lift. But Emma can't stop watching her, sensing something is off. Sarah, I need to ask you something. Are you sure everything is all right? The question hangs in the air, heavier than it should be. Sarah hesitates, her eyes flickering to the side before she answers. I'm fine, Emma. Really? But something in her voice doesn't match the words. Emma presses further. You've been acting strange. You know you can trust me, right? For a split second, Sarah's face tightens, then quickly relaxes. Of course, Emma. Always. The smile she gives is too wide, too practiced. Emma holds her gaze, but the warmth between them feels like a lie. There's something I don't know. Emma can't put her finger on it, but she feels it deep in her gut. A seed of doubt has been planted. and now it grows. That evening, Emma finds herself face to face with Michael Thompson in a private meeting room. She knows Michael well, but tonight something about him feels different. There's a coldness in his eyes that wasn't there before. "You've always been a smart woman, Emma," Michael says, leaning forward. His voice is smooth, almost too smooth. "But sometimes you let your emotions get in the way." Emma feels a chill run down her spine. "What are you trying to say?" she asks, her voice steady but laced with suspicion. Michael leans back, his gaze unwavering. "I'm saying that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who'll hurt you the most." The words cut through the silence, and for the first time, Emma feels truly unsettled. Michael continues, his words wrapped in a veneer of concern. "I just want you to be prepared, Emma. The world's not kind to people who trust too easily." A beat passes, and Emma catches the subtle shift in his tone. He knows something. The question in her mind is clear. Is Michael trying to warn me? Or is he part of the plan to bring me down? Her chest tightens. She wants to believe him. But doubt is already creeping in. The following morning, everything changes. The door to Emma's office bursts open, and Jackson Cole strides in with a cold, triumphant smile. "We need to talk," he says. His voice is laced with a confidence Emma hasn't heard before. For a moment, Emma freezes, her breath catching in her throat. She's ready for a fight, but what happens next is not what she expected. Jackson places a file on her desk, one she immediately recognizes. It is full of confidential documents that only a select few people have access to. She opens the folder and feels her world shatter. The documents reveal insider information about her company's finances, exposing a deal she never authorized. Her heart pounds in her chest as the realization hits. Michael, the betrayal is staggering. She looks up at Jackson, her face pale. You've been working with him this whole time?" The words feel foreign, like they don't belong in her mouth. Jackson's smile widens. "This is just the beginning, Emma. You've been played." Every word feels like a knife twisting deeper into her trust. And before she can say anything, Jackson stands, his eyes flashing with victory. "I'll be in touch," he says, leaving her to process the reality that everything she believed in has been upended. After Jackson leaves, Emma stands alone in her office, her hands shaking as she stares at the documents in front of her. The betrayal hits her like a physical blow, but the weight of it is more than just the papers. She trusted Michael. She trusted Sarah. But now, she realizes that her world was built on lies. The silence of the room presses in on her. How could I not see it? She wonders, her heart aching. The plan had been set in motion long ago. She'd been blind to the people who had been plotting against her. Emma sinks into her chair, her mind racing. But amidst the despair, one thing becomes clear. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning of her fight for survival. The anger builds inside her, replacing the hurt. She won't let this betrayal define her. Not now, not ever. She stands up, wipes the tears from her eyes, and gathers the strength she thought she had lost. "It's not over," she mutters under her breath, her resolve hardening. "I'll make them pay." And with that, she begins to plan her next move, determined to turn the tables on those who betrayed her. Morning settles like ash over the office. The storm is gone, but the air feels hollow. Emma sits in silence, hearing only the hum of vents and a faint elevator chime. Light drifts across the desk like a slow confession. She studies the scattered files, tracing timelines with a trembling finger. "It wasn't random," she whispers. And the room answers with nothing. Footsteps fade in the corridor, cautious, wary. Sarah lingers at the door, eyes lowered, voice thin. "Do you want coffee?" Emma nods, afraid of her own voice. The glass walls throw back her reflection, split by metal frames like fault lines. A pattern emerges in the dates, in the transfers, in the calls that always came minutes apart. Emma breathes in recycled air and lets the truth scratch at the edge. "He used me," she says, and the whisper tastes like iron. She turns a page and finds a name buried in tiny print, a holding company she once approved without a second thought. It links to one number, one signature. The first hinge moves. The smell of burnt coffee drags a door open in her mind. Emma sees a board dinner from months ago, laughter pressed under candlelight and clinking glass. Voices overlap with today's silence, the past threading through the present. Michael leaned close then, saying, "Security is built on discretion," while Jackson toasted to growth that felt too fast. She remembers the band's brushed snare, the cool bite of citrus in the air. The server's pause when a card declined and was replaced without a blink. Sarah excused herself to take a call in the hallway, eyes wet when she returned. "Just family," she said, and Emma let it go. Now the memory sharpens, edges in focus. A napkin scrawl matches a routing code on her desk. The same code on the shell company. Emma presses the paper to the glass like proof. The timeline snaps shut around the dinner, a quiet ignition she never smelled. Her throat tightens as a name rises from the bottom of the ledger. Printed clean, patient, permanent. The chill settles with it. Emma meets George in a quiet conference room where clocks seem to move slower. Air vents hiss like surf, steady and distant. She lays the napkin and ledger by his hand. "Tell me why I missed this," she says, voice thin with grit. George studies the numbers, then studies her. Silence stretches, full of heartbeat and breath. "You wanted to believe," he says. She waits, holding the pause like a blade. "Belief blinds," he adds, and his gaze doesn't flinch. "Who taught you to move this fast?" Emma exhales. Jackson pushed velocity. Michael smoothed the corners. "I signed." George nods once. A verdict without gavel. "And the funding under it." She slides the line item forward. He taps the holding company name. "That's a mask," he says. Behind it sits the same voice that backed your first expansion. The floor tilts. Emma steadies on the table edge. "So it was never chance," she says. George's reply is a quiet cut. "It was design." The room contracts around a single truth that changes the game. The call arrives like a court summons. Emma answers and hears a voice she knows too well from quarterly whispers. Mr. Carter speaks with calm certainty, as if the world is a spreadsheet. "You build quickly," he says. "You build quickly," he says. "I taught you to." She stands by the window, city light rubbing silver across the glass. "You starved the market," she replies, throat tight. He sighs, almost paternal. "I corrected inefficiency. You enjoyed the lift." His words are clean, bloodless. Jackson provides discipline. Michael provides access. You provide brand. Emma swallows hard. And Sarah, a pause blooms. "Collateral," he says, soft as velvet. The line blurs between predator and teacher. "This was necessary," he adds. Conviction dressed as mercy. Growth without custody is chaos. Emma looks at the skyline and sees bars where beams should be. Every metric becomes a chain. "You made me," she says. The answer lands like a seal. "No," he says. "I revealed you." The truth floods in, cold and everywhere. Silence returns, different now, shaped like a doorway. Emma gathers the files into a single stack and breathes through the sting. The story she told herself falls away in clean pieces. "So this was the truth all along," she says, and the room does not argue. She sees the path behind her, lit by speed and praise, and the hands that steered from shadows. Law sits beside her, heavy but honest. She lets it stay. The city hums, low and patient, as if waiting for her to move. She writes 3 names on a blank page, then draws a box around them and a line back to one source. The fear is still there, but it no longer leads. "No more reacting," she whispers. The glass no longer looks like a wall. It looks like a map. She closes the ledger and stands. The air tastes like metal and rain, and the floor feels steadier than it did this morning. She turns off the lamp. The reflection in the window nods back. The next step is hers to make. The hallway holds its breath. Lights stutter once, then steady. Footsteps rise from opposite ends like drums. Emma waits by the boardroom door, pulse tapping in her ears. Frosted glass trembles with elevator echoes. "This is it," she whispers, and the word fogs the air. The building hum deepens, a low animal sound. Sarah appears, jaw set, eyes bright with fear. "They're inside," she says, voice clipped. Emma nods and pushes the door an inch. Voices scrape on polished wood. Jackson speaks in smooth blades. Michael answers in numbers that sound like orders. Emma draws a breath that tastes like copper and rain. She turns the handle fully, ready to step into the glare. The room falls silent as the door swings wide, and the phones stop buzzing at once. Emma enters first. The table gleams like ice under the leads. Jackson smiles without warmth. "You built the myth," he says. "We brought it back to Earth." Michael stacks papers in perfect lines. "Control is stability," he adds. Emma moves to the head chair but does not sit. "Control without consent is theft," she says. Jackson leans back, lazy with confidence. "Markets favor the ruthless," he replies. "You taught them hope." Sarah stands by the screen and loads a ledger. Numbers spill like rain. Emma cuts fast, voice tight. "This path ends in ruin." Michael's jaw locks. "It ends in order," he snaps. The air thins, quick and sharp. Emma lifts one page like a blade and points to the source line. Jackson's eyes flick, the first crack showing. The screens bloom with transfers. Michael steps forward, voice raised. "This meeting is over." He reaches for the power strip. George opens the door, breath heavy from the stairs. He looks at Emma, then faces the table. "It stays," he says. Silence drops hard. Jackson laughs once, low. Security moves in the hall, radios hissing. George places a badge on the table and slides a key file across. "Use it," he tells Emma. Michael lunges for the cable. George blocks with a shoulder and takes the shove. The room gasps. Emma feels the moment tear. "Stop," she cries, but the word arrives late. George steadies himself, hand on the table, eyes on Emma. "Finish it," he says, and it sounds like a goodbye. The screens hold. The cost lands. Alarms throb from a floor below. Sprinklers prime but do not fire. Emma steps into the center and opens the file. Jackson rises, eyes hard. "You don't have the will," he says. Emma's voice is iron. "I have the truth." She mirrors the screen to every board tablet. Names burn white against black. Michael moves left. Sarah flanks right, steady as breath. "They will forgive results," Michael says. "They'll remember harm," Emma answers. The ceiling hum deepens. The city flashes lightning across the glass. Light and shadow strobe over faces. "Choose." Jackson growls. Emma signs the injunction and transmits. The room splits. Half recoil, half lean in. Michael's fist tightens. Jackson steps once, then twice. Emma does not move. The send bar completes. The storm breaks. The noise drains away like tide. Security disperses. The table stops vibrating. Jackson leaves without a word, shoes whispering on glass. Michael lingers, eyes dull, then turns to the door. Smaller than before, Emma stands still and lets the silence settle. George rests in a chair, breathing slow, a hand pressed to his side. Sarah brings water and sets it down with care. Emma looks at the city, rain rinsing the neon into soft rivers. The anger fades to a clear ache. "It's done," she says, almost to herself. George nods and closes his eyes. Sarah squeezes her shoulder once. Emma gathers the signed pages and places them in a single stack. The storm lights flicker, then calm. One light remains on, and it is enough. The building finally hushes, like a tide drawing back from broken pilings. Dawn smears a pale stripe across the glass, and the city breathes again. Paper edges curl where rain crept in, leaving faint silver arcs. Emma stands without speaking, listening to the soft tick of cooling vents. Her chest rises, slow, as if relearning how to move air. The table no longer gleams. It holds fingerprints and the ghost of voices. Sarah gathers cables with careful hands, saying nothing, eyes red but clear. George watches the window, steadying his breath, a quiet anchor in the dim. The alarms are gone. Only the hum remains, thin and distant. Emma looks at the empty chairs and feels the exact shape of absence settle into the room. Silence presses close until memory cracks it open. Emma sees the ledger's glow, the rain's white noise, the split second when resolve overcame dread. Relief arrives like a thin ribbon of warmth, then guilt folds over it. She walks the perimeter, fingers grazing cold glass, tracing the night's map. Images flash soft as breath. Sarah's steady stare. George bracing the door, a tablet lighting the dark. "We are still here," she whispers, almost afraid of the sound. The words drift and fade, gentle as dust in a beam. She lets the weight roll forward, not backward. Outside, a bus sighs and swallows the street light. Life tilts not to what was, but toward what can carry this new truth. Time thins to a hush when George stands and steadies on the table edge. Emma crosses to him, and the room narrows to 2 breaths. He smiles once, small and worn, and it lands with more weight than any speech. "You finished it," he says, voice low enough to keep. She nods and feels something close, not with a slam, but with a click that fits. The city brightens a step, and dust turns to gold in the beam. They do not hug. They let the quiet hold the space. Forgiveness arrives without being named. It simply takes a chair and stays. Sarah sets a glass beside them and looks away, giving time a path. Emma thanks him with her eyes and lets the past loosen its grip. Later, Emma opens an old message George once sent after a bruising quarter. The words were simple then, and simpler now. "Build for storms," it read, "and accept the water you cannot stop." She hears his voice over the hum, not younger, just clearer. The night rewinds to the dinner, the call, the ledger, then lands on the present with new light. Lessons braid tight with breath. Speed needs ballast, trust needs audit, power needs witness. She feels the ache and lets it teach without burning. George sits nearby, eyes closed, as if sending that line again. She closes the message and looks up, and the room seems wider. One tear arrives, quiet as a pin on carpet, then the smallest smile follows it home. By noon, the office breathes like a living thing again. Emma gathers the injunction copies, the drive, and one clean page. She writes 3 names, then draws a line through 2, not from spite, but from release. "Enough," she says, and the word does not shake. She signs a resignation as chair and a reinstatement as founder, a shift from throne to steward. Sarah reads the plan and nods, a quiet oath in the motion. George approves with a single lift of his brow. Emma places the stack in a plain folder and closes it with a soft tap. The room holds still, respectful. She turns toward the hallway, lighter by what she chose to carry and by what she laid down. Morning rests on the building like a hand that no longer shakes. The city hum softens, and the glass holds a pearl glow. Emma stands still, counting breaths the way divers rise. The rooms remember thunder, yet only dust moves now. She walks the table's edge, tracing faint rings left by long nights. Sarah says nothing, and the quiet feels kind for once. Emma thinks of names she crossed out and the weight that left with them. She sets her palm on the cool window and lets the ache name itself. We kept the truth alive, she says, almost a prayer. The light answers, gentle and undecided, and she wonders if the price was fair. Emma packs a single folder, leaves the trophies to their echo. Steps slow, careful, final. The hallway breathes with her and lets her pass. Sarah walks beside her, not ahead, not behind. It's time, Sarah said, quiet and steady. Emma nods and feels the decision land without noise. Elevators open like pages turning to the last line. She slides her badge into a plain envelope. No ceremony. The doors close on the old floor number and do not look back. The cab descends through reflections that blur into a soft river. When the doors open, the chapter has already ended. On the ground floor, a lobby screen loops last quarter's launch. Emma pauses, and time thins again. George once said, "Build for storms." And the words return like tide. His voice feels close, not loud, not far, just here. She sees the night he blocked the cable and the small smile after. Sarah waits a step away, letting the memory breathe. You finished it, his echo says, and the silence agrees. Emma lowers her eyes and lets gratitude pass through like light. The lobby brightens as a cloud drifts off the sun. The theme settles in one line she will carry. Guardianship over glory. Days pass in cleaner air. The office hum returns, lighter, honest. New hires trace fresh badges, and old maps come down. Emma watches from a quiet corner, learning the rhythm of not owning. Sarah handles a briefing with hands that never shake now. A rumor of laughter moves through the floor like wind through threads. Thank you, someone says to the room, not to a person. Emma nods without turning, accepting the world as it is. The city outside keeps time with long, even breaths. Change is no longer a wave. It is the shore. Evening finds the rooftop clear after rain. Emma holds the plain folder, then sets it down beside the vent. Wind smooths her hair and lifts the last sting from her chest. We did enough, she says, and the city answers with lights. She closes her eyes and lets the quiet fill the places thunder once lived. No speeches, no witnesses, only breath and the soft click of a new lock inside. She turns from the edge and walks toward the stairwell door. The night does not follow. It simply watches. The truth no longer needs a throne to stand.